Hello everyone and welcome back. So today we're talking about Mare of Easttown episode 2, Father. And initially I thought they would cover grieving fathers, her father, the baby's father, kind of grieving the mother, and we kind of look at that. But no, actually the question here is who is the father of Erin's baby? So the episode starts off and Mare goes over to see the body. And as they're kind of examining this body, they realize that whoever inflicted these wounds must have been in very close proximity to her, which suggests that the killer is someone that she knew very well or just wasn't really a threat to her. Which, this whole episode was very strange because we'll go through the possible suspects, but the biggest thing I got out of it was the fact that Mare doesn't know as much as she thinks she does about the people in her town. So starting with the first father, Erin's father, so they kind of break it to him that, his daughter is dead and that she was possibly murdered. And automatically he says it was Erin's baby daddy. He never wanted the baby. He wanted the baby aborted. He hated her for it. And as you're listening to him, you're like, you know what? That makes a lot of sense because he was very mean to her. I remember being perplexed last episode because how can you watch the mother of your child just be punched in the face like that? There was just no respect. And as he's explaining it, you're like, you know what? That does make sense. But the one thing that was clear was that he clearly should have been watched. He clearly was unstable. And Mare was just like, you know what? He's a grieving father. Let's just move on. And this whole conversation, you kind of understand as the episode goes on why the people in this town have no faith in her, which is because either she has tunnel vision or she's messy. There's a lot going on with her that they know about, but she doesn't know about. And so we get to the second conversation, or the second father, which is Erin's baby daddy. And this was a peculiar conversation because first she was interviewing him alone. And second, he was lying through his teeth. He was sitting there and he was lying about stuff that you're like, this is gonna come out. You might as well just be transparent, tell them about the fighting video, he wasn't telling her anything. And one of two reasons, either he knows something about her that he's not 100% comfortable saying, because he was pretty confident. He just walked out of the building. He's like, you know what, bye. He wasn't really afraid of her. And maybe it's because he knows something. And the second, he could be covering for this really awful girlfriend of his. I mean, this woman is the personification of trash. She's just a trashy, she's ugly inside and out. She's very unlikable. And, even the way that she arrests her, you can tell that Mare just knows everybody so well. She's tossing people around. She's throwing them, talking to them, casually, you need to tell me what I need to know. And, this is just not how you behave. And the only useful thing about Brianna was that we find out that Mare's son committed suicide. And she just doesn't like her very much. And she's looking at her too, kind of with the same vibe, you know nothing, Jon Snow. You don't know anything. She's calling her a bee. She's saying this and that. And again, it could be that she's not 100% comfortable talking to Mare because, again, maybe she knows something that she doesn't. And so we find out a lot about Mare in this episode, which is that she is just a hot, bloody mess. And when you contrast her to her new partner, so just a brief side note, this guy, we know him from American Horror Story. He's a handsome dude. And it's weird watching him because he's so proper in this. He has a suit on. He's not crazy. And I was like, okay, he looks like a decent young man. And he's just following her around. What is you doing? They basically assigned him as a babysitter, it seems like. And he's just watching her toss people into rooms, violate their civil rights, and he's just like, what is he doing? You can't just do this. And he's kind of like the rest of us watching this, this is weird. These people know each other way too well. And so he was a good person to have because he was actually on the outside looking in. And Mare's life is a mess. I mean, where to start? So her son committed suicide. It seems like he had a history of kind of mental illness or disorders. And her grandson's mother, I guess, is some type of drug addict that's about to fight her for custody. And so, a lot of these things are coming out. But one of the weirdest scenes was the whole bit with Brianna's father. So he kind of says, you arrested my daughter, you're doing this and that. And he literally follows her around, right? Like he's threatening her and she just kind of dismisses it like, hey, like it's all good. Like you're just a grieving father. Like she's just going on with her day, you know, she's going out on dates. And just a side note, that date with Guy Pearce was like such a waste of time. I don't know why we spent time on that because nothing happened. And I get he's supposed to be a love interest, but I feel like he just wasted a lot of time. But maybe he'll serve a function later. I'm not really sure. But all this to say, this dude like literally followed her around, threw a milk carton through her window, and she just wasn't fazed by it, you know? And now you understand kind of why people are looking at her crazy, because they're like, you know nothing, Jon Snow. Like, you don't know anything. And that could be true, because it seems like everybody knows more about shit than she does. Her mother lives with her. Her daughter doesn't even pick up the phone. Like, she doesn't seem to have her house in order. So there's two big revelations from this episode. First is the number of suspects, and the biggest one of them being Mare's ex-husband. So it seems like Mare's ex-husband was this girl's algebra teacher, and she kind of has a weird conversation with him saying, what do you remember about her as a student? And he goes, well, she was very shy and quiet, but I remember thinking she had a bad home life. And she's like, how the hell would you know that? Like, did you talk to her? And he's like, no. And so this was weird, because it's like, you must have observed her long enough to be interested. So it doesn't really add up. Like, how would you know that her home life was... So he clearly was kind of... There was something there, and you can kind of see her face. She was like, okay. And thinking about Mare's husband, I mean, if we recall from the last episode, he was at a party. So we don't know how long he was gone for. We don't know if he had time to leave. And in this episode, they kind of briefly say that her phone was found very far away from her body. So again, like who she called, you know, what happened with her phone, who was able to kind of, you know, be in such close proximity to her that they would kind of know what to do with it. So that whole phone log situation, like who she called and what's going on, that's something that's going to unfold later. But looking back in the last episode, like correct me if I'm wrong, but like that was his engagement party, correct? So who knows what could have happened? People were drunk, they were busy, and maybe he had a chance to slip out. So, and it also does explain if there is a possibility that he is the baby's father, why everybody wasn't really totally comfortable in speaking to Mare. Because there's a number of suspects kind of sprinkled throughout this episode, some of them random, some of them not. Like one of the random ones was this priest. So again, Erin seemed to have confided in a number of people. We don't know who, we don't know where, but it seems like she was talking to this priest. Like there was all these random people that kind of came in and out. And also they kind of interview all these students and all these people that, you know, interacted with Erin, her husband, and her ex, Brianna. And one of the most peculiar interviews was with Erin's best friend. And she could not look them in the eye. She was looking down. She was not comfortable. And later we find out why, because it seems like Erin told her best friend that, you know, Mare's ex-husband could be the father of her baby. And that changes everything, because Mare has been kind of, first of all, she's too close to it. Second, it can also explain why she hasn't been able to solve any of these cases, because she seems to have a blind spot to the people around her. And again, like kind of seeing what people are capable of or what they're not capable of. And the second big revelation is what happened with Erin's father shooting Erin's baby daddy. Now, I had no sympathy for him. Like, we don't know if he's dead. We don't know if he's alive. We're not really sure we care. But the one thing that was obvious is this guy was unstable. We could have seen this coming from like a mile away. And he followed this kid. This kid kind of looked him in the eye and said, I didn't kill your daughter. And in my heart, I believe him, you know. But again, he takes this kid out to the woods, shoots him, leaves. All of this which could have been prevented. And that ends the episode. And so I thought this was a good episode in terms of pacing. I do like the contrast between Mare and her partner, because it does alert us to the fact that she's so like involved in everything, and she's not this outsider looking in on everybody's messy lives, but it could be that everybody's on the looking into her messy life. So the contrast was good. You know, he was just kind of like, what the hell is going on? In terms of the fathers, I like that kind of twist where it's like, oh, they're not grieving fathers. They're like all suspects. And again, whoever killed her was probably someone she was comfortable with. And it would be interesting to see if it does end up being Mare's husband or somebody that Mare is close to, and what that says about all these other cases that she can't really solve. All that to say, I really enjoyed that episode. You guys let me know what you think, and until next time.